Talking about a book while you're reading it helps children increase their reading skills quickly, much faster than children who are simply read books without having any kind of conversation about the book. That said, it takes a little bit of practice to learn how to ask the right question that help children make the personal connections and practice the kind of vocabulary that really does help them over time. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that and then how to do it. Most of the time, when adults read to children, the children sit silently and listen. It's almost as if the adults are giving the children a kind of performance or entertainment. When you use dialogic reading, it's literally a dialogue between the person who's reading the story and the kid who's listening to the story. The story, in fact, becomes a conversation starter that helps the children learn language and new words and learn about new things and things like that. They make connections to the stuff that they're learning about, but the only way they can make those connections is when they're actually talking about it. Simply listening is a little bit too passive. They need to talk about it with you as you're reading the story. This kind of practice with conversation helps to build conversation skills. With dialogic reading, the story actually becomes kind of a conversation starter where you and the child engage in this conversation about the story itself and about the child's personal experiences. You explore new vocabulary words and you kind of build up knowledge for experiences that are actually in the story. There are 4 main things that you can do with interactive reading or dialogic reading. You can ask the child questions that allows them to respond to you. You can build new vocabulary by introducing a new word that's in the story and then asking the child about it or kind of explaining it to them. You can repeat what the child says and extend it, and you can encourage children actually telling their own story. Let's talk about how to do these prompts, because there's actually a way to do it, and asking the questions is actually kind of hard. So there's a couple of different techniques that you can use. These prompts are kind of specific, and if you do them correctly, you will get a child to talk to you about them with more than just like 1 or 2 word responses. So if you ask something like, have you ever seen a bird that looks like this? You will get a response like yes or no. It's 1 word. What you really want is you want a rich exchange. You want the child to kind of go into it a little bit. Now, at first, young children, they don't really have enough words to talk a lot about what they're doing, and this is where you give them words. So we're going to talk a little bit now about how to ask those kind of questions that start that conversation. One thing you can do is repeat and extend. You kind of want to have this conversation with the child. So you say something like, there's a lion in the story. What would you do if you saw a lion? And the child might respond with a single word response like run or pet it. You repeat what they say and then you extend it a little bit into kind of a full sentence because you're kind of wanting to model longer kind of extended conversations. So they say pet it and you say, oh, you would pet the lion? That sounds amazing. And then this allows the child to hear their response within this context. You're basically modeling for them what a full response would look like. Another kind of prompt that might get you more than a 1-word response is a do you remember? So say you're reading this book about a zoo and you say, you see a bird in there. You ask them to make a personal connection. You say, do you remember a time when you saw something new? And you get them to talk about that time. You encourage them to tell a story. Another way to develop a child's language skills through a read aloud is by introducing the new words that will pop up in a book. That's kind of the benefit of books, is that they bring up words that we don't normally use in everyday conversation. So instead of the word run, you might get the word dash, like the little boy dashed over to see the bears. Know that the child has never seen this word dash before. You say, do you know what dash means? Dash means to run really fast. And then you ask them where they might want to dash to. Like, oh, if you had to dash somewhere, where would you dash? And you try to see if you can get the child to actually use the word, which is a really good way to help them build their vocabulary. So at this point, what you've done is you've used the pages of this book to help the child learn what a conversation looks like, modeled for them full sentences, which is a really good way to develop their language skills, introduce them to words that are familiar concepts, but maybe a new way to say it. Instead of run, you say dash. Also help them make these kind of personal connections that build knowledge in their minds. These are the simple questions that you can ask that actually make a read aloud a very powerful tool for literacy development. It's also a very effective technique to make reading seem fun. Little kids really do want to share their experiences with you, and it's difficult sometimes to find a time or a place to have a genuine conversation about something. And reading a book like this, a book that's accessible, that you draw the child into as you're reading, this is a really great way to have the child really share, and they love it. It's completely fun. You become not just the speaker, now you become the listener, and both of you are telling stories to each other. It's very fun. If you want more details or demonstrations, especially seeing preschool teachers or elementary school teachers doing this in the classroom, I put a link in the descriptions for this video, and you can check that out. There's a lot of work that's been done on this, and there's a lot of really good demonstrations of teachers in the classroom. The big takeaway with this is don't make it work. Don't make it difficult. Make it really fun. Keep it short. Just a couple of new words, maybe just 1 or 2 exchanges while you're reading a story. If you'd like to hear more about reading aloud and how it can help kids learn, check out my next video.